The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
You're listening to episode 151 of The Catholics of Oz. The Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolates and apps, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on The Catholics of Oz. Hello, I'm Lindsay, Sant, and welcome to episode 151 of The Catholics of Oz. I'm joined today by my brother from another mother, Lino Saubolle. How are you, Lino?
I'm good, Lindsay. Hello to our listeners. It's a nice, beautiful day outside. And is it, Lindsay, by the time everyone's listening to this podcast, Easter will be...
It'll be the Easter season. So, here's what's happening. At the time of recording, it's Holy Saturday for us. So we have Easter Mass. We're recording on Saturday morning, so we've got Easter Mass tonight. So when this episode comes out, it will be a week since Easter, and what is it? Everyone will be in the Easter season.
Yes. It's really... this time continuum is really strange, man, because so we're talking about Easter when this has happened.
Well, it's happening, yeah.
It's happening, and then when you guys listen to this, you'll be listening for the future or the past. I'm getting confused, so it's just really weird.
It's just, you know what, don't try and do the time.
No, we'll leave it for Doctor Who.
Yeah, you can work it out if you have a TARDIS, but even then, it'll do your head in. So if you're listening, Happy Easter. That's right.
Happy Easter, man.
Yeah, Happy Easter. We're saying Happy Easter with our Lent voices because we're currently in the last part of Lent.
Yes.
Happy Easter, whatever. Yeah. If you're having a good time, whoever's listening. Actually, people should, when they listen to this episode, they should compare it to the next episode and see if our voices are any different. See the pre-Easter and post-Easter. See if we...
I think it should be okay. Yeah, I think our voices at the moment are okay. And then later on we'll go, yes, but Lent is still going in a sense for us in our hearts and trying to...
Yeah. I think we maintain the joy all year round, don't we?
That's true. That is true.
Awesome. So, why don't we kick off the show? Oh, actually, I should explain why Caroline's not here, by the way. I forgot. How can I forget my sister? When she hears this.
Wait, you don't want to forget your sister because she'll come back and go, let's eat. Let's eat.
I haven't. Yeah, I have to record the whole episode again. I'll have to start again. So, Caroline is currently in New Zealand with her family, so visiting her in-laws. So, she's spending Easter there. Awesome. I apologize. I said New Zealand. I should have said Middle Earth. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, there's always, what is it called? An asterisk or a disclaimer for that, you know?
I always get my terms mixed up. So she's in Middle Earth right now with her family. So she's there for a week and she'll be back for our next episode. However, we did record the science topic earlier, Caroline and I, so it will appear in today's episode. So there you go. How good are we? So organized.
Cool.
Caroline and I would be laughing at each other right now if I said how organized, but that's...
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So, yes.
We are organized. Okay.
Oh, of course we are so organized. We really are.
So relaxed.
That moment of silence after I said All right. So if you are new to listening to the Catholics of Oz, first of all, welcome. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and some positive feedback so that we can hear from you and reach new people, which is what we are all about. SQPN also hosts the Catholics of Oz and all of its other awesome shows on YouTube. You can subscribe by searching for SQPN on YouTube and then hitting the bell to get notifications when new episodes of this show and all the other great shows are released. So with that in mind, Lino, let's get started with Faith Beyond Borders.
Well, I'm actually feeling rather good about this. I think we've all arrived at a very special place, eh? Oh. Spiritually, ecumenically.
How do you make somebody love you without affecting free will?
Welcome to my world, son. You come up with an answer to that one, you let me know.
Yes, I had to work very hard to pass Latin and theology.
Oh, quite. Those are, of course, the most important things.
Oh, yeah.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, man.
And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
So, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Lino, we are just about at the end of Holy Week. So, you and I will be experiencing Easter, the massive Easter, the Easter Vigil, I should say, this evening, which is exciting.
Exciting, yes.
We're currently in the Mass that started on Holy Thursday, really. So, because it starts on Holy Thursday, it doesn't end. It continues on Good Friday, which has no beginning or end. And then it will conclude this evening with our celebration of the resurrection of Jesus and our beautiful greeting of He is risen. So I thought, what would I talk about for this episode? Well, I thought I might talk about what actually kicks off the Easter Triduum, which is Holy Thursday, and share Pope Leo's message or his homily for Holy Thursday as well. I've been trying to keep up with some of his homilies, and he always has beautiful things to say. So I thought I might share this one. So you ready to dive in, Lino?
Let's do this. Oh, cool.
Let's do it. So this is the full text, and I will read most of it, if not all of it. I'll watch the clock as I read, so we don't go over time. So, yeah. But I'll get the good bits in, I promise. So he says the following. Oh, by the way, he did this Mass at the Basilica of St. John Lateran. So what we've seen in the last couple of years is Pope Francis will do this Mass, or at least the washing of the feet service, he's done it in prisons, normally in a prison, I think it is, and he'll wash the feet of people. So Pope Leo is doing the washing of the feet in the Basilica this time. So it always means something. So there's always a meaning behind it. So this one, what was explained is that this year he wants to emphasize himself as the bishop to his diocese, because he's obviously the Bishop of Rome. So the Bishop of Rome is the Pope, right? So he's got members of the Diocese of Rome who is washing their feet this time. So there's always a different emphasis each year by different popes for whatever reason. And we'll actually hear the voice of Pope Francis in this homily, and you'll see why he chose to wash the feet of people in prison and the way Pope Francis interprets it as Pope Leo talks about it in his homily I'm going to read. So I'll stop talking about that and I'll actually go into the homily so that I make some sense. So good. So he says the following: Dear brothers and sisters, this evening's solemn liturgy marks our entry into the Holy Triduum of the Lord's Passion, Death, and Resurrection. We cross the threshold not as mere spectators, nor out of habit, but as those personally invited by Jesus himself as guests at the supper, in which bread and wine become for us the sacrament of salvation. Indeed, we take part in a banquet at which Christ, having loved his own who were in the world, love them to the end. And that's from John 13:1. His love becomes both gesture and nourishment for all, revealing the justice of God. In this world, and particularly in those places where evil abounds, Jesus loves definitively, forever, and with his whole being. So the themes of this homily, one is of the gesture of God, what Jesus did in the washing of the feet at this service, and also the nourishment of God, which is the Eucharist that we receive. And Pope Leo was saying it's not a coincidence that you're here. It's not a habit that you just turn up because you're supposed to turn up every year. You're here because Christ invited you at that first event, that first Eucharist, that first washing of the feet. Christ invited you, and that is why you're here tonight, because Christ initiated it. You didn't do anything to set this up. Christ did this, and now here you are accepting Christ's invitation. Any thoughts on that first introduction before that first paragraph before I move on, Lino?
No, you've totally explained all that. Yes. Yeah, this is the first time that we've experienced, we would say, part of the Eucharist that we celebrate during Mass. With, of course, this is just straight out the first one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Cool.
I think it's nice to think of it as an invitation as well. It's
yes.
not a habit ritual that we have to do.
No.
You're here because Christ wants you here this evening, this Holy Thursday, to celebrate this event, to be part of it. And again, not just to commemorate an event, but also to be in it at the same time. You are part of it.
That's correct.
So I'll roll on. So Pope Leo goes on to say, during this Last Supper, he washes the feet of his young apostle, that popped in my head.
I got it.
There's one young apostle at least. All right. In this case of all of his apostles. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
They're still young and hard.
Yeah. I should just jump in here and without going into too much detail. My wife and I have baby brain this morning because we had a rough night. All right. So if random words pop out, you know why. All right. So he washes the feet of his apostles, saying, I have given you an example that you should also do as I have done to you. And this is John 13:15.
I like that verse. Yeah, it really resonates to everything that we usually do in our life. And that's very meaningful in our lives at the moment. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Christ, what do we do with our faith? Christ is the example. And you're right. I agree with that too. I think this is a phrase that a lot of us latch onto. What should we do? Well, Christ gave an example of what we should do. And this night it's powerful. And Pope Leo will say the washing of the feet is connected to the Eucharist. The two are not inseparable. They are connected events, and there's a reason for that. One interprets the other. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So with that in mind, here it is. The Lord's gesture is inseparable from the table. That's the next line. All right. So you can see I read it before, right? So the Lord's gesture is inseparable from the table to which he has invited us. This gesture, he's talking about the washing of the feet, is a concrete example that flows from the sacrament. While revealing the meaning of the Eucharist, the Eucharistic mystery, it also entrusts us a task, a mission that we are called to take up as nourishment for our lives. John the Evangelist chooses the Greek word, apodigma. I actually looked it up before and I've forgotten. See, baby brain. The Greek, I'm going to go.
No, I cannot say that word, babe. I cannot.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is, Lino, I actually looked it up and prepared myself. No, I've forgotten because of our rough night. I'm going to say apodigma, and I can be correct on it later. But here's this Greek word, and this is in John's Gospel, right? So remember that John's Gospel, the Gospels are all translated from ancient Greek into English and other languages. So the ancient Greek word, and this is how we get the meaning and intention of the Gospels, by looking at the original language it was written in. So the Greek word apodigma, to describe the event he witnessed, it means that which is shown before your eyes. So the washing of the feet, the word to describe it is that which is shown before your eyes. What the Lord shows us, taking the water, the basin, and the towel, is far more than a moral example. He entrusts to us his very way of life. The washing of the feet is a gesture that encapsulates the revelation of God, an exemplary sign of the Word made flesh, his unmistakable memorial. By taking on the condition of a servant, the Son reveals the Father's glory, overturning the worldly standards that so often distort our conscience. So this is quite profound. It seems like a simple action of washing someone's feet, but Pope Leo says it is an example, but it's more than a moral example. Yes, it's moral. Okay, service is moral, but it's even more than that. Jesus isn't saying do good because it's good to do good. He's saying do this because this is actually the way of life of a Christian. This is what I'm trying to show you. And then Pope Leo says that this is in contrast to sometimes what might enter our minds, that the Father's glory is there to overtake the world and to dominate. No, it's there to love the world. The Father's glory he's showing is there to love the world. And as an act of love, God, the most powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent in the world, like in all of existence, washes the feet of his creation, of his people. And so what is the godly way to live? Jesus shows it, to wash each other's feet. Not literally, obviously, but the washing of the feet is the example. And it's not just the godly way to live, it's the way to live Eucharistically, because the two events, again, are inseparable, the Eucharist and the washing of the feet. So when you receive Eucharist, you are saying, yes, I want to be another Christ. I want to be a foot washer. I want to be like what Christ is calling me to be. So it's quite powerful and profound what he's saying to us. Any thoughts on that paragraph? I've just thrown a lot at you there. Sorry. Any thoughts?
No, man. No, I totally understand. The washing of the feet is more than a symbol, and it's like a symbol and an example together for us to be as Christian as we can be, as we want to be, and how I don't want to go too deep, but your journey of being a Christian. Yeah, I totally understand. And like you said, it's not just a physical, there is also a physical, but also there is a symbolic way of understanding that washing the feet is, us humans, we walk on our feet most majority of the time. And our feet are always either dirty or either on a journey or on travel. And it's good to keep them in, let's say, good condition, or am I maybe going a bit too far? Or maybe
No, I don't think you're going too far at all. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, well, other times we need them to get washed. We need them to maintain them, to look after them. And and also I think it's an act of love as well in the way you want to, because as Lindsay, with your children, you wash them and you wash their feet. And of course, as people get older, they will need their feet to be washed in a sense.
Especially in old age. You're right. Yeah. So it's a pretty profound act of service because it's a menial task, right? My understanding is that in ancient times that when you would enter someone's household, a servant would wash your feet at the door because so you didn't bring dirty feet into the house, right? So it's a menial, dirty task, and when we think of feet, we can think of all the things we think of feet, right? Like the idea of, because we wash our own feet. So imagine it's someone else doing it for you. How low God stooped to show service, godly service, not just any kind of service, but what Christian service is really like. So and this is again, the God of the universe, the creator of everything, stoops down to his creation's feet and washes it and says, now you do this. This is, if you want to be like me, then this is what you need to do. So yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful. I'll read that line again there. It says, by taking on the condition of a servant, the Son reveals the Father's glory, overturning the worldly standards that so often distort our conscience. So he'll go on to explain this now, what he means by this. So he says this, along with the silent astonishment of his disciples, even human pride cannot remain blind to what is taking place. Like Peter, who at first resisted Jesus' initiative, we too must learn repeatedly that God's greatness is different from our idea of greatness, because we systematically desire a God of success and not of the passion. And that was from a homily of Pope Benedict XVI.
Wow, that sort of makes sense, Lindsay.
Yeah. It's Pope Benedict XVI for me, is a powerful theologian. I love the way that he explains faith as well. It takes a while sometimes to understand what he's saying, but that's because the depth of his understanding is quite powerful. So again, this is for us. Pope Benedict XVI said, and Pope Leo quotes this, we must learn repeatedly that God's greatness is different from our idea of greatness, because we systematically desire a God of success and not of the passion.
Not of the passion. Yeah. Wow.
Because what is the God of the passion? The God who would die on the cross. That seems like a failure, right? That seems like an absolute failure. Like he came here in
for many, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was executed, right? I thought you were powerful. I thought you were God. I thought you were more powerful than all this. That's not success. You're dead and they're still alive and they're still in power. So but God flips our understanding of this, right? That actually the passion of Jesus is the victory over all of these things. And so again, this is just in the understanding of the washing of the feet. So this is why Peter resists initially, because this is not the idea of God that he has or the idea of the Messiah that he has. So Pope Leo goes on to say, these words of Pope Benedict XVI candidly acknowledge that we are always tempted to seek a God who serves us. Who
serves us.
Yeah, who gives us victory, who proves useful like wealth or power. Yet we fail.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is the human understanding that can come in, right? Sometimes we have a transactional faith. I do this, God will do this for me. But that's not the way it works, right? Or sometimes there are some people who think that the success in life, the wealth we achieve, the power, the status, is a sign of God's power in our lives, which is not necessarily the understanding that God has tried to give us. So he says, yet we fail to perceive that God does indeed serve us through the gratuitous and humble gesture of washing feet. There is the true omnipotence of God. So omnipotence is all power, right? All powerful. So
I was about to ask you that, Lindsay. I forgot about what that word meant.
I'm lucky because I use these words in my religious education classes every day. So yeah. So I can tell you. We talk about the 3 O's, the omnipotent, which is the all-powerful, the omniscient, which is all-knowing, and the omnipresent, which is present everywhere. And that's the creed, in all things visible and invisible, right? God is present in all these things. And I can only repeat that to you because I've taught it 50 times now, not because I'm smart. But I'm surprised my baby brain even managed to do that. So we're good. So to go back to that, the true omnipotence of God, according to the all-powerfulness of God, according to Pope Leo, is that God does indeed serve us through the gratuitous and humble gesture of washing feet. So he says, this is the true power of God. In this way, his service to devote himself to those whose very existence depends upon his gift is fulfilled. Out of love, the Lord kneels to wash each of us, and his divine gift transforms us. Indeed, through this act, Jesus purifies not only our image of God from the idolatry and blasphemy that have distorted it, but also our image of humanity. For we tend to consider ourselves powerful when we dominate, victorious when we destroy our equals, great when we are feared. In contrast, as true God and true man, Christ offers us the example of self-giving, service, and love. We need his example to learn how to love, not because we are incapable of it, but precisely to teach ourselves and one another what true love is. Learning to act like Jesus, the living sign that God has placed within the history of the world, is the work of a lifetime. I was blown away when I read that the first time.
That is absolutely, yeah, I totally.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So what he's trying to do is tell us, he's trying to rehabilitate our image of God, because our image of God could be, God wants me to be powerful and to dominate. God is there when I defeat my enemies and when I best someone who's equal to me. But actually he's saying, no, love is the true power of God. And I remember, I always hang on to this, Saint Thomas Aquinas, he said, to love is to will the good of the other. How about that? Loving is wanting what's best for the other, for the person who's not you. It's love. And if someone else is willing my good while I'm willing the good of others, then we've got it worked out, right? The Christian service to each other. So, and he's obviously making references to what's going on in the world right now. We know there's wars and conflicts.
In a sense, yes. I didn't want to put that in. Yeah, but yes, I understand that.
I mean, we can talk about it. It's happening in the world. And whatever people's position are, we have to remember that war is not an act of love. Pope Leo, outside of his homily, has been quite strong in his desire to see the war end. There's no justification for war. We can talk about a just war, but that's a whole other thing altogether, right? But I don't know how we could look at our screens and see the schoolgirls who died, the invasion of this, the destruction of that, the loss of these lives here or whatever. We can't look at any of that and say this is for the good, right? We might argue that it's for the greater good, but when we do that, we're falling into what's called utilitarianism. And in utilitarianism, the idea is you make the most good for the most amount of people, but those people who are not the most amount of people, those who are left behind, have to suffer for the good of others. And that's not Christian. That's not Christian love. Christian love says the good of everyone who's made in God's image, and that happens to be every single person who exists and who has existed and who will exist as well. So he calls it blasphemous and idolatrous to have any image of God that's different from the one that Jesus has given us, the servant God who washes our feet and then tells us to go and do the same.
But when you tend to consider ourselves powerful and we dominate, victorious, when I'm thinking of that, I think more of us ignoring and overcoming evil. I see that side of it as well. That's the God. He wants us to be powerful, but not as to be powerful over our faith, over evil, over Satan, over all the negativity, what is it called? All the, trying to find what Satan does.
Temptations.
False things that Satan would tell you and say, I'll do this and do that. And you praise me. That's the part that God wants us to be dominant and to be victorious through.
Agreed.
And for us, yes, love for our neighbor and our friends. Yeah, and that's the other side, I thought, of the dominant and victorious.
Yeah, that's consistent with Pope Leo said, because what is the source of our power then that makes us victorious? What is our victory actually? Is the source of our power like swords and missiles and whatever, and harsh words and all these kinds of things? That will give you a victory of a kind, won't it? You can defeat people for sure, right? But that's not the victory that God is calling for. Actually, the biggest power, the biggest source that we have, you've just said it, is God's love. That's how we're called to defeat evil, because at the end of the day, all of the human beings in the world, regardless of what we think of each other, we're actually not each other's enemies. We're a family, because that's that's Jesus' death on the cross. You can look it up in your catechisms, people, for anyone writes and disagrees with you, but Jesus' death on the cross is a sign of God's filial adoption of the human race, which makes us brothers and sisters under under our parent, who is God, our Father. So the human race is a family. And again, look at the catechism before anyone writes back to me and tells me I'm wrong. Okay, which you can do, by the way. I love you all. But truly I do. But that's what I'm trying to get at, is that love will actually solve the world's problems. The love of God, not like a fanciful love like love. No one knows except Australians.
I love that. Yeah.
Hands of our lives kind of love, whatever you want to call it, all right?
Wow, that's forever love. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but we're talking about love that wills the good of the other. This is the love of God. Servants' love that Jesus showed us. That's how we defeat evil, the evil which is trying to turn us all against each other all the time. So, yeah, I love your reflection, Lino, by the way. Thank you for that. So he goes on to say, he is the true measure, the teacher and Lord, who removes every divine and human mask. He offers his example not when we are content and devoted to him, but on the night he was betrayed, in the darkness of incomprehension and violence. In this way, it becomes clear that the Lord's love precedes our own goodness or purity. He loves us first, and in that love, he forgives and restores us. His love is not a reward for our acceptance of his mercy. Instead, he loves us and therefore cleanses us, thereby enabling us to respond to his love. Let us then learn from Jesus this reciprocal service. He does not ask us to repay him, but to share his gift among ourselves. You also ought to wash one another's feet. John 13:14. As Pope Francis once remarked, this is a duty which comes from my heart. I love it. I love this and I love to do it because that is what the Lord has taught me to do. And this is his homily from the Mass of the Lord's Supper on the 28th of March, 2013. He was not speaking of an abstract imperative, nor of a formal and empty command, but expressing his heartfelt obedience to the charity of Christ, which is both the source and the model of our own charity. Indeed, the example given by Jesus cannot be imitated out of convenience, reluctance, or hypocrisy, but only out of love. So this imitation of Christ, that this is why he references Pope Francis. Pope Francis says, "I love washing the feet because I get to repeat the charity of Christ. I get to do this charity, not because it's an obligation or because it's a ritual or because it's what's demanded by the church." He says he loves doing it because it is that act of Christian service. He gets to do this act of Christ. And he gets to show it to us so that we can all do it too. So right in our liturgy, it models the way to be human, to be Christian. That model is there for us, coming right out of the Mass, right out of the Holy Thursday Mass, and out of every other Mass, because the Eucharist, again, is always connected to the washing the feet. Pope Leo said they're inseparable. So again, every single time we receive Eucharist, we're saying, I will lovingly wash the feet of my brothers and sisters, who is everyone in the world. So again, very powerful. I just want to throw that point in. Do you want to say anything about that before I get to the last little bit?
Oh, that is so good. I think of the way we live and how we act as well. And especially at work, at times at work, we think to ourselves, do I love doing work? And also the love you have within your family, in a sense, and within everything you do in life. Being Christian is trying to show that love. And look, I must admit myself, I have failed to do that many times, and trying to come back and go, I am doing this because I love the Lord, and the Lord has taught me to love one another in a way. And sometimes it is hard, but that is, what do you think, Lindsay? Do you think that is part of the journey of being a Christian, of still learning the love of God and the love of each other and understanding? And I think one time we were talking about it was, many other podcasts, I think we're talking about the love of God. And yeah, this is a total connection with the washing of the feet and the love of God together. And it totally makes sense. You wake up in the morning and go, am I able, and Lord help me, do I wash the feet of my fellow Christians, the fellow people who I work with, the family that I love, and the family that I am going to be with, and especially Easter, and it's a real sort of connection with it. Yeah.
I'll respond what you said with two things, that there were two things you were asking there earlier. One is, you're right about that. He said, Pope Leo says that learning this love is the work of a lifetime. So yeah, that's, of course we get it wrong. That's just what we do, but it is the work of a lifetime. This working on ourselves to be as loving as we can in the way that Christ has demonstrated for us in this event. And you talked about the love of God. Yes, there was a Pope. We did talk about it. That's what you were talking about before. Pope Francis's encyclical, it's either Delexite or Delexit Nos. I forgot which one it is. It's one of those. Anyway.
One of those. Yeah, I remember.
Christ loved us with a human heart. So there's this love of God. Yes, we have talked about it before. And I really strongly, it's one or the other. I know that one of them is the encyclical written by Pope Francis, and one was the follow-up written later by Pope Leo. I recommend those very strongly on the love of God for humanity. Absolutely. So I'm just going to go through the last couple of paragraphs of the homily, and then we'll talk about that and we'll wrap up that discussion. But I'd recommend people to read it for themselves for their own reflection. I was also thinking, this thought came to me while you were talking as well, that when a couple of episodes we talked about Pope Leo's letter for Lent, his letter to the world, message for Lent. And one of the things he said was bringing God back to the center, to the middle of our lives, to the center of our lives. This is why we have Lent, to bring God back, to bring love back to the middle so that we can be loving again. Because we do, we drift a bit. It happens to all of us. But that's why we do Lent every year, to make sure, if we have let God leave the center, if we've pushed God out of the center, that we bring God back in and surrender to that love of God. So I just thought I'd mention that very quickly.
No. Yeah, it's like a reset button. Not a reset as in, it's just like I said, be reset to be centered back into God and to know Lent, this is where we, bring her back to the center of love. Yeah.
If anyone said hands up if you need a reset of your faith right now, I'd be putting my hand up. All right?
I'll put my hand up. Exactly. I'll put my two hands up. Yeah, both hands up.
Yep. Whatever, just everything. Yep.
Exactly.
All right. So he says this: allowing ourselves to be served by the Lord is therefore the necessary condition for serving as he did. Unless I wash in you, Jesus said to Peter, you have no share in me. Unless you accept me as your servant, you cannot truly believe in me or follow me as Lord. By washing our bodies, Jesus purifies our souls. In him, God has given us an example, not of how to dominate, but of how to liberate, not of how to destroy life, but of how to give it. As humanity is brought to its knees by so many acts of brutality, so he's talking about what's going on right now, let us too kneel down as brothers and sisters alongside the oppressed. In this way, we seek to follow the Lord's example, fulfilling what we have heard from the book of Exodus. This day shall be a day of remembrance for you. Indeed, the whole of biblical history converges in Jesus, the true Passover lamb. In him, the ancient figures find their fulfillment, for Christ the Savior accomplishes the Passover of humanity, opening for all the passage from sin to forgiveness, from death to eternal life. This is my body which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. By renewing the Lord's gestures and words this very evening, we commemorate the institution of the Eucharist and of holy orders. The intrinsic bond between these two sacraments reveals the perfect self-gift of Jesus, the high priest, and living eternal Eucharist. For in the consecrated bread and wine lies a sacrament of love, a sign of unity, a bond of charity, a paschal banquet in which Christ is received. The mind is filled with grace, and a pledge of future glory is given to us. And he's quoting Sacrosanctum Concilium from the Second Vatican Council. Through bishops and priests, constituted as priests of the new covenant, according to the Lord's command, there is made present the sign of his charity towards the whole people of God. Beloved brothers in the priesthood, we are called to serve the people of God with our whole lives. Holy Thursday is therefore a day of fervent gratitude and authentic fraternity. May this evening's Eucharistic adoration in every parish and every community be a time to contemplate Jesus' gesture, kneeling as he did, and to ask for the strength to imitate his service with the same love. Before I get your thoughts in, I wanted to throw something in quickly. Our parish priest, Father Joby, on Holy Thursday and yesterday, Good Friday, and I know he's going to mention it this evening as well, But he was talking about his reading in preparation. He was doing some reading in preparation for the masses.
Oh,
yeah. And he said the rubric says it's about three things. The institution of the Eucharist, the washing of the feet. I might be getting that wrong. But he said that the Mass, the institution of the Mass. The priesthood was the other one, sorry. The institution of the Mass, the institution of priesthood. And he said, but also a love more powerful than death. And he said this has been the thought that's been following him this Holy Week, this whole time, is a love more powerful than death, or a love that overcomes death, whatever it was, the exact phrasing of it. And that stuck with me. That's an amazing thing for him to share, considering what Pope Leo has been saying now about love through the service of washing our feet, the servant God, and the example of love he's given us, and that love is the way to live the Christian life, to imitate Christ, is the way of love, not the way of war, not the way of dominance, not the way of power, not the way of overcoming other people, but the way of using love to disarm and to create a better world and a better community. And then again, that sign comes from our reception of the Eucharist. When we receive the Eucharist, we are receiving what it is that we hope to become, which is the love of God for our neighbor, and symbolized by the washing of the feet. Anyway, I just thought that Father Joby's, that popped into my head. And I wanted to share that because it links so powerfully to what we've been saying today. Any concluding thoughts, ideas, anything you wanted to share before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, look, it's all about the love of God and the love with each other and the love we have for each other. And I think Pope Leo is really telling us that this world needs more love, and during this Easter is a great opportunity and also a great sign that we need to keep on going, not only for Lent, not just only for Easter, for the rest of our lives, to know that the love of each other and the love of neighbor is strong. It's what can I say this, Lindsay? It's a struggle in this society, in this world, where people think they can do things in any way they can without any thought and just think, I can do this. I can fix the world and doing this instead of doing it another way. Even though they say, oh, we tried this way, we'll do it another way. No, that's not the love of God. Love of God is love. I don't know where it was for Lindsay. Was it love is patient and kind?
Yeah,
merciful.
Corinthians. Yeah, Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, it's just, I think Pope Leo is saying, please bring peace and love in the world. And really through our Easter season and through the washing of the feet of the disciples and the Eucharist, he's praying for our fellow Christians to remember that he is there. Do not forget he is there. The world may seem to be a dark place at the moment, but do not forget he is there, and we are always there to renew our love for each other and for our families as well, and for our friends and our neighbors. Yeah.
And that's how we transform the world. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to leave us with those words because I have nothing to add to that. That was a beautiful conclusion. So, no, thank you, Lino. No,
all good.
Beautiful.
All good. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, so we encourage you to, now with the Easter season on its way, again, by the time you listen to this, we're right into it. What's the first thing you can do after listening to this message today? To be more loving, to love like Christ. What can you do?
That's true.
Make a commitment now about how you can imitate the love of Christ. Celebrate how you already do. Of course, I'm not saying anyone who's listening doesn't. Of course you do. You're listening to this podcast because there's obviously something you want to get out of hearing it. So celebrate what you already do that imitates the love of Christ, and think about what more you could do because again, as Pope Leo says, love is the work of a lifetime. Right? It's the work of a lifetime. So we can always be more purified in our love, and Christ is there to show us how to do that, and to help us to do that, and through the Eucharist to shape us into that as well. Right. Thank you for that, Lino. With that in mind, we're going to go to a pre-recording where Caroline and I talked about science.
What a fine day for science.
You have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Can you reverse the polarity?
I'll do my best.
excitement.
All right, Caroline, here we go. Tell us about the wonderful science of frozen mice brains.
So, yes, today we're going to be talking about thawing out and bringing back to life mouse brains. Well, at least part of the brain.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter. But the thing is, they can actually make them function again after being frozen. Let's get into it. So, cryobiology is the branch of biology that studies the effect of low temperatures on living organisms, on biological systems and their components, such as proteins, cells, tissues, and organs. And usually cryobiology primarily focuses on how life survives or sometimes fails to survive at temperatures near or below the freezing point of water, which is 0 degrees or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So the greatest obstacle in cryobiology when it comes to preserving life isn't actually the cold. It's the phase transition of water. So our cells are essentially like salty envelopes of water surrounded by a lipid bilayer, like fatty cells, not cells, fatty molecules. And the water is one of the few substances of Earth that actually expands when it freezes. Now, as the temperature drops toward 0 degrees, water molecules begin to align in a rigid, hexagonal, crystalline lattice. And what happens then is the crystals behave a bit like microscopic blades. So they don't just freeze the cell, they physically puncture the phospholipid bilayer, which is, as I mentioned, the outer cell layer of our cells. So for the brain, so it's defined as its hypercomplex connectivity made up of neurons. So the crystallization of the water is catastrophic. So it doesn't just kill the cells, it actually untethers the synaptic bridges that house our memories and identity. So there is a team that's had a look into this. So it's been published in a study published in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences earlier this year. They've found a way to bypass this destruction. So a team at Friedrich Alexander University in Germany has moved beyond freezing into the realm of vitrification. What is vitrification? It's a process of turning a liquid into a glass-like solid without the formation of any ice crystals. So they found that by cooling the brain tissue at extreme velocities, often exceeding hundreds of degrees per minute, in the presence of cryoprotective agents, and these are like a biological antifreeze, they didn't freeze the brain, they turned it into a kind of biological glass. So usually to achieve this vitrification and prevent lethal ice crystals, you need high concentrations of cryoprotectants like chemicals such as DMSO or ethylene glycol. Now, as I mentioned, these are essentially a biological antifreeze. However, while these prevent ice at low temperatures, they are toxic to cells at warmer temperatures. They can actually interfere with protein folding and trigger cell suicide pathways, so the cells actually die. Now, the team was able to use an alternative method called the washout protocol, meaning as the brain thaws, the chemicals are removed. However, if you rinse them out too quickly with a standard saline solution, you trigger something called an osmotic shock, which means that the concentration of the chemicals inside the cells is so high that water from the outside rushes in to balance it out, which actually causes the cells to swell and burst. So that does no good either. So to counter this, the researchers developed a hyperoncotic solution, which means the solution uses a high osmotic pressure to take up the toxic cryoprotectants out of the cell gradually. In this way, they balance the pressure and the concentration of the cell, allowing neurons to return to their natural state without the structural collapse that usually follows this kind of cryopreservation. Now, the researchers focus their efforts on one of the most vital regions of the mammalian brain called the hippocampus. and specifically in the CA1 region. And this region is called the librarian of the mind or the brain, responsible for encoding new memories and spatial navigation. So in previous decades, we could preserve the look of the cells. They looked fine under a microscope, but they were functionally silent. They didn't work anymore. They look good, but they don't work. So the study that was performed aimed to change this from an appearance of cells looking good to actually an action, so the cells working. So the team looked for electrophysiological activity, or basically brain function. So what they did was they kept the mouse hippocampus tissue at negative 150 degrees Celsius for 7 days. Then they initiated a control rewarming. Then once this tissue returned to physiological temperatures, so like normal functioning temperatures of the body, they applied an electrical stimulus to the neural pathways. Now, what they witnessed was something called, well, they termed it the holy grail of neuropreservation, which was called long-term potentiation. So what is that? Long-term potentiation is the cellular mechanism of learning. So it occurs when a high-frequency burst of activity strengthens the connection between two neurons, which makes them more likely to fire together in the future. So if LTP, for short, survives in a deep freeze, it means the molecular machinery that acts as the gates for this communication is still functional. So the brain, the software of the brain isn't just stored, but it's ready to run, which is pretty cool. So researchers found that the mouse brain cells didn't just survive the freezing process doing this, they actually woke up and they resumed complex biological functions. Pretty amazing. So I'm saying this is a major breakthrough because historically, thawing the brain tissue resulted in like a gloop due to ice crystals shredding the cells. By using this vitrification process, they actually were able to observe the following behaviors in the cells, in the neurons. So the most significant finding was that the neurons in the mouse brain began actually firing electrical signals again. They weren't vegetative. They were working. They were actively communicating. And they also found microscopically that the membranes, both the neuronal and synaptic membranes, were preserved, which allows for normal signaling. The mitochondria of the cell, so these are like the power plants of the cell, these actually restarted and began producing energy again with no sign of damage.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So while the cells weren't perfect, because there's always a bit of a deviation, the behavior was actually described as near normal in the study. So that's pretty amazing. And
that's how my brain activity is described, by the way.
Near normal, yeah, especially these days.
Near normal, yeah. Semi-normal, yeah.
As the year grinds on.
Quasi-normal.
Yes. But so why are scientists freezing mouse brains and trying to get them to work again? Well, they're hoping that maybe this kind of research can lead to preserving organs. So like there's a lot of need for organs when you may need to get a new kidney or a new liver or a new heart or whatever for some other reason. They may be able to actually start freezing these organs, because usually once a person dies and you take their organs, there's only a limited time that the organs can be preserved. It's a very quick thing. It's got to happen straight away. And sometimes the organs can be damaged if they're not delivered on time. So they're thinking that this can be used to preserve organs in the future and be a really valuable thing in medicine. So, yeah, this was something I thought was pretty interesting, and I thought I'd share it with everybody.
I think that's really fascinating. So whenever you talk about a science topic, I always have a lot of questions. Just like, teach me, master. So firstly, like a curious question, like the mouse brains, are we talking about like with still inside the mouse's head, or are we talking about did they extract the brain and then
unfortunately
try this out?
Unfortunately in this kind of research, poor little mices don't make it because they're actually,
well, I know that they use them for research. Yeah.
They do take out the brain tissue, and they're looking at the brain tissue.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to see poor mice. So I do say poor mice.
Me too. I used to have as pets, so I actually really love them.
I know. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, you love all that.
I do.
You're like the Dr. Dolittle of science. If they could talk. But I wonder if this could one day be applied to a living thing, like a mouse, a living mouse, putting it into this. Yeah. It seems like almost like a deep sleep kind of thing, really, in a way.
Yeah.
And thawing it out.
Totally.
As a way of and also as an application to human beings one day. Like, for example, if you've got a treatment, a time critical treatment that you need, but it can't be done there, and then putting someone in that sort of state, I don't know, like because it seems like the achievement of this was that no damage was done to the cells and they're able to be woken up again. So like, let's just say that you need immediate treatment, but for whatever reason, it's a week away before you can access it. But again, this would be a lot of testing because we don't know what it would do, say, on the psychology of a person. I guess there's that to look at as well.
Totally. Yeah, no, there's a lot of ethical implications when it comes to doing it a full body human, for sure. We've taught there's all this science fiction of putting people to sleep in space and then waking them up when they arrive at
freezing them and
space level and stuff like that. So you can really...
Yeah, like when a colony goes silent because it's been overrun by aliens and they have to freeze the people for the months-long journey for them to get there and see what... Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, not real, folks.
No, not yet. We're just at the cellular level right now. But it's pretty interesting. I think that, it definitely could have medical implications, medical benefits later on if it helps to save lives.
Yeah. But even like you said, storing organs, again, for transplant is a major one because that is a time critical for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like once you have the organ, you can't just put it on ice or whatever, really. You've got to get it. Yeah. The other question I had was, is this the reason why... Sorry, it's a bit graphic, but like when someone like severs, like say a finger or something like that, or something else, is this why they say you don't freeze it because it will, like the cells will be damaged by that, like by the water becoming like you're saying like razors or whatever it was.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you don't want to freeze it because it's true. The cells actually do get destroyed. And then like we were talking about the osmotic pressure as well. So the cells can burst as well once they're thawed if the concentrations are wrong inside the tissue and all of that. So do not freeze them. Just wrap it up, keep it, take it to the doctor straight away if you've cut your finger off, and hopefully they're going to be able to save it for you. Yeah, absolutely. But hopefully no one gets their fingers cut off anytime soon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But
First aid advice, but we never hope it would happen to anyone, of course.
That's it. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I wonder, hopefully, as we follow this research, we'll see what happens next in terms of what they can do. It's probably, it's the holy grail of putting cells to sleep and waking them up again, but it's probably, as always, it's probably years away before it can be applied to anything in a very useful manner. In that way, I guess it's probably steps of research that need to happen next.
Absolutely. And if you do get to the organ level, like I mentioned, there's ethical implications. You can't just be putting thawed out organs into people without knowing that the organ is functioning properly and all of that, because it's a serious surgery to have that done. You only want to have it done once. So there's a lot of experimentation to be done. Everything starts with little steps, and that's how it always happens. And eventually we get to these medical breakthroughs that are amazing for later on.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens in the future. If there are any updates on this, we'll be sure to do another science segment to talk about any future updates on it.
Absolutely.
So before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank you for joining us for episode 151 of the Catholics of Oz. And normally we would thank our patrons, but this is on me. I forgot to ask Tom for a list of patrons because, again, tired brain and everything. However, we want to thank all the patrons, everyone who supports the network and anyone who prays for the network, anyone who listens. We want to wish you a happy Easter and all the Easter blessings to you. Through the generous donations of everyone who is a patron who gives at givestarquest.com, they make it possible for the Catholics of Oz and all of the other shows on StarQuest to continue. And you can join them by visiting givestarquest.com. Also, we'd like to know your thoughts on our topics that we've discussed today. You can send us feedback by visiting sqpn.com/Oz, spelled OZ. And you can also find notes and links for today's episode. While you're on the SQPN website, you can sign up to the Insiders Club newsletter and get updates about your favorite shows. sqpn.com/about/newsletter. If you'd like to talk to us or any of the other hosts on the other shows or about the other shows, you can go to sqpn.com/discord, I should say, and you can sign up to the Discord and have a chat with people there. Everyone's welcome to come and have a chat, so please come and do that. And if you search for SQPN on all of your different socials, you'll be able to find us and link up with us there. Or if you'd like to talk directly with us, you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Catholics of Oz, and you can discuss our latest episodes and send your thoughts there. Or if you'd like to send us a good old email, catholicsofoz@sqpn.com. So thank you to Caroline for doing the science segment for us. And Lino, thank you so much for being part of episode 151.
It has been an awesome blessing. And I'd like to say, yes, like Lindsay said, by the time you listen to it, Easter's over. But I hope you guys have had a great Easter and a safe Easter as well. And may the Lord's love and the passion of the Lord be within you and your heart. So, yes, yeah. It's been a great episode, Lindsay. I loved it.
Thank you, Lino. And as the Easter season rolls on, as we move on our journey towards Pentecost, may God bless you. He is risen. And once again, thank you so much for joining us for episode 151 of the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Sacred Art. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at starquest.fm/art. We'd like to thank Patrick McCaffrey of Moonshadow Studios for editing this episode. To have your audio edited professionally and with care, check out more of Patrick's work at moonshadowstudios.biz. That's moonshadowstudios.biz.